Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, it hasn't always been smooth sailing for the matric class of 2022. You'll remember back in 2020, the class was in grade 10 when the COVID-19 pandemic hit our shores. Classes had to be suspended for 4 months, or 5 months actually, badly affecting their academic year. As if that's not enough, they have to now deal with ongoing power cuts as they gear up for their finals. To speak to us more about the mental impact of the electricity crisis on matric pupils, we're joined now by Daniella Pitt. She's the Director of Academics at SAHETI School. Thank you very much, Ms. Pitt, for your time here on eNCA. Just firstly, tell me how, especially the matric pupils, are feeling with the fact that, do they feel as though they've had enough time to study with power cuts having been with us for more than a month now?
I think that the difficulty ranges considerably when we're looking at different socioeconomic groups within a South African context.
Absolutely.
Because all aware that some candidates have got a greater advantage than others, and not everybody has the same opportunity. But I may add that the load shedding is particularly problematic for all children. They have just, as you rightly said, they have just emerged out of a COVID pandemic, and with that it's carried certainly great difficulties, and this is just compounding it for them.
And, we've heard from the Department of Education, the Basic Department of Education, saying that they've had meetings with Eskom, for instance, to see if schools could be, removed from the schedule of load shedding. But, of course, that can't happen because schools are situated in communities and these children still have to go back home to study. And that's where they would experience, for instance, hours of load shedding as well.
Correct. Correct. And I think that it's particularly difficult because we know that at matric level, all the matriculants, whether, in whatever system they are in, they're spending long hours at home. And, when there's no electricity, there's no access to information, under very, very difficult circumstances, at a time of their lives when they are particularly anxious, I think that it is posing additional threats on our very vulnerable group.
And, are there any discussions, like as you sit with these pupils, are there any discussions from them saying that, they would like to be one of the people who find solution to South Africa's power crisis?
I think that not at the moment. I think that their focus is really trying to get the best possible results so that they can persevere their dreams. I have no doubt that I'm hoping that the future lies with this generation who are particularly competent at articulating their ideas and thinking. And hopefully, they will make a better job of doing something than others.
Dr. Pitt, do you think that, the matric class of 2022 is sort of at a disadvantage to a point where this will affect them into their varsity or college life, etc.? Because 2020, they had 5 months of no learning. Some were obviously more advantaged than others, depending on which school your parents could afford. Then in 2021, it was the same situation, and the curriculum again had to be changed from the normal curriculum, and they basically learned less than they were supposed to in the curriculum. Now in 2020, there's all these blackouts. Do you think that they are at a disadvantage, or that it will affect them badly even in their adult life as they go into university?
I think that we can actually look at the situation quite differently.
Okay. Because
the one process that we can say is that while the conditions that the children are working at, it really is unfair and it's not called upon. But what happens is that they do become incredibly resilient. And I think that most schools have tried to build on this resilience. And I think that most schools have also partnered with parents in this regard. And resilience is the one factor that is going to assist pupils at tertiary level and in the workspace. Because the one thing that we do know is that there's always that uncertainty of what the future may hold. Certainly, it has made it more difficult for them. Certainly, they do feel higher levels of anxiety. I think families themselves feel a higher level of anxiety because of performance. And at the end of the day, we've got to try and make the most for these pupils. I do commend families and schools and teachers who have really put in hours of work in order to try and narrow the gaps as much as possible.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about the teachers as well. I don't know about SAHETI and what you think of this. There was also that struggle of so many people dying on a daily basis because of COVID-19. Pupils lost teachers, teachers lost pupils, family members, etc. So the anxiety also builds up from that. So I wanted to ask you particularly about the teachers and how they're able to cope, because now it's their job, because obviously as a teacher you're judged by the percentage that you achieve by the end of this year with your matric class, right? So, you know, the fact that they have to do the extra work of making sure that the pupils, even when they're at home, are able to study in the dark, etc.
So I think that we're quite fortunate because we have a truly successful group of loyal teachers who buy into the whole ethos of the school, and we're almost seen as a family. And so there is that incredible commitment. I think every teacher has gone out of her way or his way to go the extra mile to ensure that that everything is covered. We also have a very successful online platform where teachers can communicate with pupils. So we're hoping that that has gone in some sort of small measure in terms of assisting, but we are very aware of mental health strains on everybody involved. And while we all work incredibly hard, these are difficult and challenging times for anybody involved in the education sector.
And it's going to be quite important because everybody needs to stick together during this difficult time as well. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Dr. Daniella Pitt. She is the Director of Academics at SAHETI School.